What's up, you guys? Justin Rivas here. We're talking about some of the more technical terms in video and photo and trying to make them really simple and easy to understand. So next up, we're going to be talking about white balance. Now, most cameras these days have such good automatic white balance settings. You don't often have to play with this, but I'm going to talk about some examples about what that means. But at its core, light has different kind of colors to it. You know how like old school incandescent bulbs, they were like really orange, or tungsten, some people would call them. You know, that really orange light, and then we came out with those like spiral CFL bulbs, and those ones start off being like really blue light. Well, that's because light actually has different colors, and your camera has to adjust to those colors so that when you're looking at me right now, I actually have really blue lights, but I have the camera set to kind of offset that so I still look like a natural skin color and not really blue. Whereas if I turn on an orange light here, you'll see the difference here. Do you see this? This is an orange light. This is more of a tungsten color light. And do you see how suddenly my face doesn't look natural? It looks super orange. Typically your camera's pretty good at figuring out what proper white is, but you have the ability to set that if you need to, where you get into situations where you want to set the white balance. And in the case of a room like this, and when I'm shooting, what can happen when we're on an automatic white balance setting is I may move or something might change and the camera doesn't realize that the white balance didn't actually change, but reading off my face, it might go, oh, sorry, we're a little too blue, or oh, we're sorry, we're a little too yellow, and it'll adjust. Now, you won't normally notice in videos like this, but I'll tell you, if you're ever in a situation where you're filming multiple people, you want that white balance to be the same because the camera will read off different skin colors and adjust the white balance. And I've seen this before where one guy I was working with had a bunch of people do interviews and share something about their life, but they did it all at different times. He had automatic white balance set, and every time it cut to a different person, the color of the background changed and the color of people's faces. It wasn't consistent, and so sometimes you want to lock in that white balance. Hope that makes sense. Now, you'll see this actually on bulbs themselves where they have a little number on it. Lots of them are like 3300 K. K is for Kelvin, I think? No, can't be Kelvin. Kelvin is temperature. K is, anyway, it's the temperature of the light, which is really the color of the light. And the lower that number is, the more yellow it is, whereas the higher that number is, the bluer it is. So daylight, when you go outside, is actually a very blue light. The sun, while it looks kind of orange, it actually puts off a very blue light, and so that's typically around 5500, 5600 when you're looking at those numbers, and you can buy bulbs where they'll say that on there, 5600 daylight temperature, or 6000. Just remember, the higher that number is, the more blue it is, whereas you can buy like more tungsten or warm light, and that's typically around like 3300. And so your camera has the ability, when you go into the white balance setting here, which I will do right here, and you'll see here this is set to auto white balance, but I think I can dial it over to that's a daylight setting, a cloudy setting, an indoor setting, and you'll kind of see in there, we go from like, look at that, really orange, really blue, and you can automatically set this in, or you can just do one of these where you select, and we're going to go up here, and with some of these settings, what you end up doing is if you put a white sheet of paper, like I have here, you can actually set the camera and it will read off the white and properly set it for you. Or, if you don't want to be that fancy, and that's easy to screw up, you can actually just go here and dial in the exact number that you want. And this is most times what I do. So in a room like this, I think I've got it set around 5500 or 5600 for my blue lights, but you can change that and adjust that. Now, that may seem a little bit technical, but just remember, if you're in a situation where from shot to shot to shot to shot, you want it to be consistent, make sure you lock in that auto white balance. But if you're just starting out, the camera does a really good job 98% of the time. And so you can mostly leave it to that, but just remember, white balance is how blue or how orange the light is. And it's important because you don't want to end up in situations where you're looking like this. I'm Justin Rivas. Hopefully that made sense. As always, if you have any questions at all, please let me know.